Right, my team, how's it going? Hope you're having a great day today. Happy Tuesday. There isn't a moment to waste because we don't have a lot of time, so we have to get right into it. We're going to cover all sorts of things pertaining to the Mixer and Logic Pro. You ready? Here we go. Right, my team, going. You ready? Let's get into it. All right. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel. Resources for the modern creative. Go ahead and sub. Before we get started, we're going to talk about the Mixer today. Let's go. Very good. All right, hey, we got to get right into it. There's so much to cover, and I only have a little bit of time here to get it done. So I want to talk about all sorts of stuff regarding the Mixer. We're going to jump right in. You ready? Let's go. Okay, so then, last we left off, we talked about the Mixer extensively, how to view the Mixer, how to look at all the various parameters and all the mixers inside of the Mixer. You might have remembered the all mixer, the track mixer, and the single mixer. All right, so now we're talking about the channel strip. So the peak level display is a numerical display located above the level meter. It updates during playback to show the peak level reached. So you might find when you look at the channel strip that there are two components that you predominantly want to be looking at. Obviously, you have volume, mute, solo, all that good stuff. But right atop that, you have the peak level on the right-hand side, and then the actual volume decibel readout. After the entire signal has been played through to the end and provides a guide that should be used to set the volume fader. If you ever want to reset it, you simply click it once, and it will reset so you can see your latest peak. And this is important if you don't want any kind of clipping. Let's talk about the clipping a little bit. This occurs when a signal that is too loud is fed through the output channel strip. Okay, so it's too loud and it's being fed through the channel strip, and this is how we get clipping. So we will be exceeding the limit of what can be accurately reproduced, resulting in distorted sound. The value shown in the peak level on the right-hand side displays the color red on output channel strips, or orange on other channel strip types when the signal clips. This part of the peak level display is called the clipping indicator. Okay, so we've got the clipping indicator on the right-hand side. It's not an issue if individual channel strips show evidence of clipping, so long as the output channel strip, the summed level of all the channel strips, does not indicate clipping. So what they're saying here is, look, if you get clipping on one channel, it doesn't really matter because all of these are being funneled into the stereo out here. So probably, you shouldn't worry too much about it, but yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a half truth, because if you record a signal that's clipped, you're certainly going to hear it, but I believe they're just referring as a generality. So let's write this down. This is important. So long as, it's not an issue if the individual channel strips show evidence of clipping, but you want to make sure that, of course, the stereo output doesn't show an indication of that. To avoid clipping, you need to bring down the volume fader by the same value that is shown in the peak level display. So in the peak level display, what's colored orange right now, if that is +2 or +5, then you will need to bring down the volume fader by the equivalent. You can also bring down the region if it's an audio region, and reduce its region gain or clip gain, and that'll help as well. So this is kind of like before the volume pre-fader. So that's another way of going about it. Let's go to page 541. You may find, however, that a volume fader value of -1.2 sounds best in the context of the overall mix and clips only once during playback. If this is the case, it's nothing to worry about. Use your ears rather than your eyes. So this right here terminates the age-old argument. Does it matter if you clip, if it's in red? I hear this stuff all the time. And the user guide is telling you it doesn't matter if it clips, every once in a while. It's not that big of a deal if it's on the individual channel strip, okay? If you want to reset all clipping indicators, you want to click any one of these squares on the right-hand side, or use the clear overload flag in audio channel display key command. Wow, that's pretty cool. There's a key command for that. I'll take it. Okay, so how do we set the channel strip? Okay, let's find out. You can set the volume level of each channel strip independently, balancing the relative volume of the tracks in your project. You can also quickly switch between volume levels on a channel strip. Now, I find this to be a little buggy, but we're going to try this out, okay? So, of course, we all know how to drag a volume fader up and down. But if you ever want to return it back to its neutral or default value of 0, all you have to do is Option click one time. Same goes for the pan knob, Option click, and a couple of other parameters. For, let's say I reset a value here, I can Option click, and that brings it back to unison or 0, depending on where its default set is. So that is great. If you press and hold Shift while you're dragging the volume fader, this is simply going, in fact, let me get that one too. This is simply going to allow you to move in finer increments. So if we look at the channel strip on the left-hand side, this is called the left channel strip inspector. I'm going to hold Shift. I'll drag down, and now I'm moving in fine increments. Why would you want that? Well, sometimes you need to take your time, not rush. And this would be a perfect opportunity to kind of slow it down a little bit. So I'll Option click here, and then I can, again, adjust value without it. It moves a little bit faster, but if I need to move a little slower, then you want to hold Shift. Okay. The level meter located to the right of the volume fader shows the channel strip output as the project plays. When you record, watch the level meter to make sure the channel strip is not too high. So you don't want to be in the red when you're recording. You might get some clip gain. So yeah, there's two different worlds. There's a world of analog and there's a world of digital. In digital, it doesn't matter as much. In analog, it most certainly does. And so that's why we'll be covering pre-fader metering in a second here. If you want to switch between the two volume levels, there's a key command. It's called toggle level of channel strips. And you can basically go back and forth. I've tried this before. It seems a bit buggy, but you can certainly try it if you want to. So again, you go into the key command window, toggle level of audio channel strip. I have it set to Option Command T. So I guess I'll give it another spin. And let's follow the instructions to be sure. Drag the volume fader to the level you want, and then you use the key command and then drag it to another level. Okay, so let me do that. So I'm on 0. I'll drag it down. I'll use the key command. See, now everything went to 0, so that's the only thing I don't understand, like why it's set up that way. I don't know where it got that behavior from. I've never done this on this session, so that's why I'm saying it's a little buggy. Like, why isn't this happening just on the individual track? Is it because I selected, this may be it, the audio channel strips? Okay, so how do I toggle just one track? Yeah, I see input channel strips, audio channel strips, auxiliary. Yeah, this doesn't really make sense. I'm going to delete this one. If it was for the individual track, I think I would have enjoyed that. But it seems like non-instrument channel strip, toggle level of channel strips key command, toggle level. I don't even see that toggle level of channel strips. Yeah, I think this needs to be updated. This doesn't seem right. But yeah, that's kind of the idea, and you could do that with various channel strips, auxiliary strips, output, yada yada. Okay, so how do we check the channel strip levels in Logic Pro? All the channel strips featured a segmented level meter that shows the playback or input monitoring level. So we can actually look at and witness the input, like how hot is it coming in. So we can see this when you arm an audio track in preparation for recording. That's called input monitoring. Now the colors of the level, they give you a sense of where you should be, right, at a glance. So amber and yellow, these signals are safe. They do not clip the output. But if you're in red, These signals are considered hot, but the occasional peak is nothing to worry about unless the clipping indicator is continually or regularly lit. So it's something that you should certainly consider in the digital world, and with audio, you absolutely have to consider. So we're going to page 543 here. If you want to change the level meter scale, you can do so. Instead of having it read exponential, which provides a higher display resolution, you can go to sectional, and this provides the best display resolution across the entire level meter range. So that's under preferences. Hold on. Display. And let's see, where do we change it under? Where was that? Preferences display. Click mixer. So we go here. Clock here, sectional or exponential. Provides higher display resolution in the upper level. Okay, yeah, so basically the channel strip's just going to look a little bit different. I've never seen a case where I've needed to change this, but it is going to look a little bit different. If you look at the graphics of the channel strip, you'll see it reflected. I will leave that one up to you. Let's talk about pre-fader metering, kind of a controversial subject, and let's get kind of everybody on the same page here. So this level meter shows normally the signal after the channel strip. So for example, if I have like this cajon here, right? This is by Yurt Rock, a new company, YURT Rock. And if I play that back, I'm at 0 decibels in the amber and orange category, but it's still okay, right? And then if I went ahead and started adding, let's say, let's do some distortion, something kind of intense. Let's do some JST clip. I just got this plugin. I love it. All right, so let me kind of bump it a bit, and let's see what this sounds like. Oh, wait a minute. This is kind of like a limiter. This is not a good example. Let me give you some kind of distortion. See what I have available. Let's go to Decapitator. Much better example. So this is by Sound Toys, kind of one of the standards of the industry. And I'll increase the drive. So we start off at 0. Let's see where we are now. So you can see that the meter looks a little bit differently, right? Remember, they have their own output volume. You see here on Decapitator, their readout is like somewhere in the, what is that, -5 range or something. So they're taking out volume. And so whatever you insert into the channel strip is going to influence the rest of the channel strip. At the most basic level for all my beginners, if I insert a gain plugin, okay, and we were at 0, but if I, bring this down to, let's say, -10, that's going to influence the readout of the channel strip. And then it now is -10. But again, if I insert let's do some saturation. That'll really work here. Let's do, yeah, this one's crazy. I don't know if you guys ever heard this guy. Absolute beast of a plugin. All right, so let's listen to this. Okay, so you can see that now I'm getting a little bit of that clipping, a little bit of the clicking, and that's because there's too much sound going through. Take one more listen, and let me turn off all mastering plugins. Here we go. Okay, so now we're in theoretically the digital world, so it still sounds pretty decent, all things considered. I know it's all mashed up, but if I were to try to do this to a preamp going into the session, it would be an entirely different world. And so that's where pre-fader metering comes into play. Okay, so we're going to turn on pre-fader metering. We're going to choose mix. You can also customize this in the control bar, but mix and then pre-fader metering right here. Corresponding icon is at the top right there. Okay, and so then now basically the idea is on track number 5, if I bring out my bass, hold on. Oh man, Zoom is being funny with this. I hope it works. Let's try one more time. Yeah, I've been having issues recording live instrumentation. Let me just use my mic. I have the new bass ready for you guys. All right, let me go to input number. I'm on 5 with this. Let me lower my volume just in case. Check 1, 2. Okay. All right, now 1. Okay. So the volume readout as it stands, especially when I reset the value here. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm at negative 17.5, right? Or now negative 14.1. Now, if I lower the volume, check 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Check. Now drastically have shifted into the world of check, test, negative 20, test. And as I go up, test. That's being influenced, right? So this is the sound as it's coming out of my preamp. So you guys can't see the actual preamp that I have outside of the screen, but here, let me see. Let me if I could pull it in. Yeah, actually, here, let's bring this guy in. I have 2 of them. Let me bring this down. All right, so remember, I'm outside of the screen, and I have a console set up, and the microphone is kind of going into the DAW, and we're in pre-fader metering. Now, what this allows us to do is get the information before it comes into the session with all the plug-in processing and what have you. So I'm getting a pretty healthy reading if I were to record my voice at this moment, right? It's not too loud. But if I were to increase the gain, check out what happens. Look at the channel strip, the left channel strip inspector. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So yeah, much louder because I increased the gain here. And I have a gate on here. Let me take this off. Check 1, 2. All right, you should see this a little bit better reflected here. Check this out. Yeah, let me see. Can you see? I hope you can see this. But yeah, I'm just lifting up the preamp. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Wait, did that? Oh wait, turned it off. Check. Let me turn off the gate. There we go. So again, starting at there, negative 23. And I'll lift this up. Check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, and then now I'm getting a healthy level. So when you're looking to gain stage outside of the DAW and get a real honest sense of what's going on without the influence of the volume, then that's going to be the best way to do it. You see, the volume is not affecting the input because it's the preamp. And so I guess this would apply, maybe just to audio. I'm not sure how this plays into the whole MIDI world, but I guess it's the same thing, but I guess the plugins would be the determining factor. So yeah, the main idea is basically that you're getting an honest readout without the influence of the volume channel strip. That's as basic as it gets. Now let's see again if I'm listening to this piece here. Great guitars here by Yurt Rock. Yeah. And so we can see the readout is 2.5. That's in pre-fader. So this is kind of before all the processing that's going on. I have some reverb here. So let's see what we get now. Yeah, that one looks the same. That one I'm not too sure of, but for sure, pre-fader metering with audio, it has to do with the preamp. If you have any other ideas when it comes to MIDI and pre-fader metering, please let me know. Because I would think that essentially the plugins wouldn't affect the signal, and I've run a couple tests on it. So yeah, this is still something that I'm working out here. But again, like when we're just in regular mode, let's see what the readout is here. Let me bump this up a little bit. All right, so there's 1.7, and of course this is being panned a little bit, but now in pre-fader mode, let's see what we get. So it's the same, but does this volume affect it? Yeah, so I guess it's just showing you the level of the volume regardless. Now, of course, if you bring the volume down, it's still going to play it back and show you the readout. We're just not going to listen to it. So I don't know if this makes as much sense in the world of MIDI. Please, if you have comments about that, please let us know here. But good stuff. Pre-fader metering on or off. There is a button in the control bar that you can activate by control clicking customize control bar on display and then shooting pre-fader metering on there. Okay, the input formats inside of Logic. There are a couple. Okay, and when you set these up, they will determine if your tracks will be mono, stereo, or surround. Now, please do not get this confused, because just because a signal is in stereo doesn't mean that its source sound is in stereo. It could be in mono. And same goes for a channel strip that's in mono. The sound source can be in stereo. And so this stuff can get really confusing. So you really have to kind of formulate a strong education and some good methods of research to really be able to look at the information and understand the channel strips. I'll give you some tips and tricks that could work for you. So we have mono represented by one circle, stereo, two interlocked circles. We can just listen to the left channel strip. I originally thought that we were just going to listen to the left channel strip on the left channel, but in fact, it just plays it in mono. So that's, we'll have to investigate a little bit further, but same for the right. And then surround, 5 circles that are indicated. If you're not using surround sound, don't worry about it. 544, how do we access these? Well, we want to click on the input format button here. We're not seeing it on the software instrument tracks because this is MIDI, but for audio, for example, if I click and hold right there, I can access mono, stereo, left, right, or surround. Okay, so in the case of, let's see if I can get something, let me see, no, that's the guitar part. Let me listen to this conga thing. Yeah, so like right now we're listening to this and I want to see if this is mono or stereo, yeah? So what I'm going to do here is open up the multimeter by Logic, pretty basic tool that really encompasses all the readouts that you're going to need, at least at the most basic level. And so we have the analyzer on the left, and then we have the goniometer on the right. I love the goniometer because it's visual, and most of us are visual, and this is how we learn. So I'm going to play this from selection, shift, spacebar, and then I want you to look at the illustration that ensues. So even though it's mostly in the middle, it's still kind of wide and it still kind of wavers. So this is a stereo file. Even though it sounds fairly mono, it is in fact stereo. So we're going to click to the left of this channel and we're going to say, hey, we just want to listen to the left channel. And again, we're not listening to this just on one side. We're listening just down the middle, but it is just the left channel. So when this was recorded, it was recorded with 2 microphones. I'm not sure what their proximity was or what have you, but now we're just listening to the left microphone, if you will. Now, if we go back to the goniometer, you see that there's no more variation. It's just down the middle, meaning one source. Let's go to the right, left now, and let's listen to that. The same goes there. Finally, we'll go stereo. Now, what's really fascinating is when you start to put in other effects like... I guess I'll try putting this one on. This is by a great company called Initial Audio. Let's just put in some reverb. Check this out. you start seeing that we're increasing the stereo width by adding either chorus or reverb. You can add a width plugin as well. Let's add some modulation by way of chorus. Here's Antresol by D16, which I love. Check it out. Yeah, wider now. Yeah. So that's pretty cool stuff. If you want to set the channel strip pan or balance position, there's different ways of doing this. Okay, so instead of having instruments compete with one another down the middle, right? You have mono competing with stereo and stereo competing with mono all down the middle. You can separate them by literally positioning them from left to right in the stereo mix. This is what we call the art of mixing, which is the apparent placement of images inside of the stereo image. Typically, you want to have the most important tracks down the middle and have other tracks to the sides. In general, most of the mix should be close to the center with tracks panned far to the sides only for an unusual effect. Well, that's certainly a general statement because a lot of us use width to get size and power out of a mix. So take this with a grain of salt. The pan knob defines whether a track is heard far left, far right, or in the center. And there's actually a lot more you can do with it. So check this out. If you're just using the default pan mode for mono channel strips, remember we talked about mono up here, the panner determines the position of the signal inside of the stereo image. So you have the center, which is playing equally left as it is equally right, or you can pan those left and right, and that kind of influences them in the stereo image. It's still two speakers, right, unless you collapse everything to mono. If you increase the pan position on the left side, and you do, then you, in fact, will decrease it on the right. So if you pan something on the left, we're not going to hear it on the right channel anymore, right? Same goes for stereo pan. It has kind of these laws, and you have a lot more flexibility. If you want to position this on the left or the right signals, you can, and then you can actually kind of like invert the channels. So here with this example, and I have a mixing course on this. There's a lot more to go over, but this is not a mixing course per se. But if I control click on the pan knob, we have stereo pan, balance, and binaural pan. Well, we're not using surround, and we're not going to worry about that right now. But balance is just going to move this left or right. Now this is a stereo channel strip, so they haven't described what the difference is there, right? They talked about pan and a mono channel strip inside of a stereo image, and so that's one world, but there's also the other concept, which is a mono, the balance panning inside of a stereo image, and that the relationship changes it a little bit. So stay tuned for more information. But basically the idea is panning with balance is at the most basic that you can get. Okay, stereo panning is a lot more sophisticated. If I hold command, I can invert these channels now. So the information that was on the left goes to the right, the information that was on the right goes to the left. And then, of course, you could then do a lot here. I could take the information that's on the right channel and then balance it so it kind of appears to be over my head and to the left. And then now I'm influencing my song in this way, where I'm hearing just more information to the left of my soundstage, right? Same goes this way. We can decrease the width, increase the width. It really is quite a powerful tool. And if we cover more, I would love to show you more. So we got the binaural panner, which is a method to simulate the full range of spatial information, including the angle, elevation, distance, right? Binaural panning is best suited for headphone playback. So this probably will not translate in the world of two speakers or one speaker, but if maybe you're doing something with headphones, it may not be a bad idea. All right. Mono channel strips have a pan knob by default. Stereo channel strips have a balance knob by default. So once you set up either a mono or stereo, you're going to get these respectively. Signals at the center of the stereo panorama might sound louder than those panned to the hard right or left. So this is important to also notate, right? To compensate for this perceived increase in volume, Logic Pro offers numerous options for pan laws. So now we're getting a little bit deeper, right? Or amounts of volume reduction for signals panned to the center. So if you want if you want the relationship to change and you don't want things when you move them out to the side to get quieter, then you might want to work with pan law. If you have configured Ascend to be the independent pan mode, The pan knob for that channel strip controls the stereo panorama to that send. The pan options above still apply to the pan knob when controlling a send. Okay, it looks like we're going to actually get into this later at some point, so looking forward to that. Select the panning mode for a channel strip. Control click the pan knob, then choose a panner from the shortcut menu. So I showed you how to do that already. And then let's wrap this up by setting the pan knob or balance knob position for a channel strip. You can drag the pan knob for the channel strip horizontally or vertically, so literally click up and down. Option click the pan knob to return it, as we talked about before. Let's say I move this to the far left and I want to reset it back to its default. Just option click that. Again, you can command click to invert those channels. And then you want to press and hold shift if you want to move these in finer increments. So again, if I just drag up and down, it goes pretty quick. But if I hold shift, now I'm really kind of taking my time and moving this. Hold on. Oh, it doesn't work for this. Let me see if I could. Nope. Doesn't seem to work for the stereo pan. But if we go to balance, let's try this out. Yeah, works fine with balance. Good. And that's what binaural panning looks like, by the way, which I wouldn't get used to unless you're really going to enter the world of, you know, the headphones and all that good stuff. Otherwise, you might want to check out something like Virtual Stage by Parallax Audio, which is a whole nother world, and it does translate a lot better, from my understanding. So let me just show you that before we go. Imaging. Where is it? Virtual stage. Yeah, virtual sound stage right here, where you can literally position stuff, and yeah, really, really nice piece of tech right there. All right, page 548. All right, so when we come back, we're going to talk about the relationship between stereo and pan. So we'll get a little bit deeper into the woods when it comes to how do I use the balance knob? When do I use a balance knob? When is it correct to use the stereo pan knob? In terms of muting and soloing channel strips, you know, what's the workflow there? Let's see. Looks like they talk about soloing several of these at the same time. Then we get into selection-based processing, which I really love. If you don't know about this feature, really is truly next level. Looks like we're going to get into MIDI effects as well, and a host of other effect plugins. So I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for your time. I know this was a shorter session, but lots going on today. Like, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to share this with one person. Just share it with one individual where this could make a difference. I know it's made a difference for you, so let's go ahead and contribute to the life of another creative. We thank you very much. We're so committed to helping 10,000 modern creatives, people just like you, people that just want to make a difference, people that just want to do better, be better, have more, be more. And so, yeah, really, truly appreciate it. I'm going to get out of here wishing you the best Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. Take good care. I'm going to catch you guys tomorrow. Stay up, stay happy. We'll see you soon. Cheers. Oh, yeah. Don't forget to stay in beast mode. Let's go! Let's go.